Let's go ahead and continue with our presentation from the Gospel and the Zodiac, the secret truth about JC, the Christ figure. All right, this book is written by Bill Darrell-El. Bill Darrell-El. Okay, we stopped on the subheading. Give me one moment, please. Like and share the video, please. We have a rule here, and that rule is if you stay longer than 5 minutes, like the video. If you don't want to like it, I do ask you to leave. Okay? That's the price you need to pay. All right? Which is really absolutely nothing because it's free. You just click on it. Some people forget to subscribe. They have good intentions. Okay, but I need you to subscribe. If you've been here more than once and you haven't subscribed, please do so now. If you don't want to subscribe, then the content is not for you, so you should leave. All right? So the only people who are invited to be here are those people who support the channel by subscribing and liking. Okay? As you know, YouTube has shadow banned this YouTube channel. So the minimum you can do is to like, subscribe, and share. Share the video on your social media. All right, Instagram, Facebook, what have you. All right, so do that now. And let's go ahead and get started. We're on the spiritual lessons of Virgo. The spiritual lessons of Virgo. This is the subheading, page 135. All right, page 135. Give me one moment. Let me have some tea for a second. And then we'll begin with the presentation. So right now it's about 6:10 in the morning where I'm at here in beautiful Vietnam. Also, I hope everyone realized yesterday was the spring equinox, March 20th. Your time, I think 5:25 in the morning, March 20th. So that's the natural new year, or the new year that we Moors should recognize, okay? So if you're going to do any type of celebrating, do it on the spring equinox, all right? On the spring equinox. Now, we need to take a look into something too, because I believe it was in the chapter on Virgo just a few pages ago. Not Virgo. No, not Virgo. It was, is it Virgo? Give me a second. Yeah, Virgo. Is it Virgo? Yeah, Virgo. Somewhere in here, I've got to review this. I believe it was Virgo, where the author mentioned that in ancient times, the year began, I believe he said in Virgo. Virgo is the woman, right? Represents rebirth, okay? So let me take a look. I'm curious about that now. Yes. Okay, so I'll go back to, if you're interested, this is on page 130. Okay, it reads here, Virgo and Mercury. Let me see if I'm right. Yes. We noted in the chapter on Aries that in the ancient world, Virgo was considered to be the leading constellation in the zodiac circle. So now if this checks out, we need to research it. If this checks out, we'll need to move our New Year's, right, up to Virgo. All right? So I'm going to go that information is in the chapter on Aries. I'm going to research further into that, all right? If that's the case, then the vernal equinox, the spring equinox, will no longer be our new year, right? But it appears to be that it should be the new year, because that's when springtime occurs. But anyway, spring is rebirth, regrowth, right? But we need to check it out. It's a point, it's a research point. Not point, but a topic we need to research further. The entire goal is to harmonize with nature, all right? No sacred horses, and no sacred cows. Sacred horses, where did that come from? No sacred horses. That's very interesting I said that. Okay, anyway, so those of you who may want to do some research, research that. Okay, research that. All right, let's get back to the topic that we're on today. This is actually very important. Very, very important, okay? Very important that we be in sync with nature. And as I've shown already in this book, just looking at the text alone and applying simple logic, we can see that the hybrids have just injected, they've changed the zodiac. That's clear. Very, very clear. Okay, everything from the symbology or the motifs, those, and also the stories associated with them. Okay, so they've given energy and power to these stories. All right? To the stories that explain, that they attach to and associate with the zodiac and the motifs or the symbols of the zodiac. Everybody understand that? So they're directing energy and power into those. We need to change it, revert back to our own stories, whatever they were, okay? And our ancient motifs, ancient symbols. Okay, and redirect power back into that. All right, let's continue. So in other words, the zodiac is being used as a weapon of war. It's been weaponized. That's what I'm trying to say. And that's totally reasonable, because that's the character and the habit, right, that we see from the hybrid troglodyte. Paleolithic caveman. Okay, so nothing new here, right? Same old story. The spiritual lessons of Virgo. Heaven lies about us in our infancy. Okay, shades of the prison house begin to close upon. We already did this. I remember that. So, okay, so we are on, give me 1 second. All right. 1 second here. Where are we? Okay, religious experience in childhood. That's where we are. This is page 138. Religious experience in childhood. Like and share the video, y'all. Subscribe. Here we go. In the mid-70s, the religious experience unit at Oxford University, isn't that interesting? They have a religious experience unit at Oxford University. Think about that. What might the professors and researchers be doing there? What type of research, y'all? You think it might have something to do with psychology, paranormal. I mean, who knows? Okay, so they conducted a survey of initially 2,000 people, asking the question, have you ever been aware of or influenced by the presence or power? Let me repeat that. Have you ever been aware of or influenced by a presence or power? Whether you call it capital G-O-D or not, which is different from your everyday self. I knew that was coming. Rather, more than 36% of the people approached answered affirmatively. They answered yes. From which figure it was projected that about 15 million adults in this country, that's in England, about 15 million people in England, adults, would say that they have been aware of the presence of some type of deity in their life at one time or another, okay, y'all? All right? That is to say, over a third of the population, age 16 or over, this quote is coming from Hay, page 113. Edward Robinson was struck by the number of respondents, some 15% who claimed to have had such an experience in childhood, and this prompted him to compile a book containing dozens of examples of these early intimations of transcendence. For example, one 57-year-old lady writes, "The most profound experience of my life came to me when I was very young, before 4 and 5 years old. My mother and I were walking on the street of the land, on a stretch of land in Pagbourne, Berks, known locally as, quote unquote, the Moors." Can't believe that. Take a look at that yourself. This is page 138. Y'all see that? Pause the video so you can read it after this is over with. Section of land called the Moors. This is in England. Okay? So let me do that again. So this is in Pagbourne, Berks. If anybody want to find out more about that, take a look at where my finger is. This is in England. Okay? There's a stretch of land called the Moors. M-O-O-R-S. Okay, so my mother and I were walking on a stretch of land in Pagbourne, Berks, known locally as the Moors. As the sun, that's the S-U-N, sun declined, and the slight chill of evening came on, a pearly mist formed over the ground. My feet, with the favorite black shoes with silver buckles, were gradually hidden from sight until I stood ankle deep in gently swirling vapor. Here and there, just the vast, tallest harebells appeared above the mist. I had a great love of these exquisitely formed flowers and stood lost in wonder at the sight. Suddenly, I seemed to see the mist as a shimmering gossamer tissue, and the harebells appearing here and there seemed to shine with brilliant fire. Somehow I understood that this was the living tissue of life itself, in which that which we call consciousness was embedded. Y'all got that? She thought that she saw some type of medium or media that contains consciousness itself, appearing here and there as a shining focus of energy in the more diffused whole. In that moment, I knew that I had my own special place, as had other things, animate and so-called inanimate, and that we were all part of a universal tissue which was both fragile yet immensely strong and utterly good and beneficent. So y'all know that's ridiculous, right? Utterly good and beneficent, no. A universal tissue that's fragile yet immensely strong, it's got to be one or the other, I would assume. But utterly good and beneficent, no. This, and you can think about that yourself, but I think that's clear. This is without doubt the experience which has laid the deepest foundation of my life and for which I feel the profoundest gratitude. This quote was taken from Robert E., page 11. Okay, so the point here is that this, what they're calling spiritual experience, happened in childhood. Okay, but I thought it was very interesting that they have an area in England called the Moors. Wake up, y'all. Wake up. Okay, it's also interesting that she related it to consciousness and not some deity or saint. Okay, even at that young age, she related it to consciousness itself. Or maybe that may have came later in life, but she says it was consciousness, all right? Consciousness. So I am a condensation of that consciousness, and so are you. But we're all tuned in at a different frequency, similar to my cell phone number receives calls that are made on that frequency, and yours receives calls made on your phone number's frequency, right? So we all are the same consciousness. We're just tuned in at different frequencies. So this is why we are all one. Everybody see that? So we're all connected. We're all that same consciousness. I am you, and you are I. And then once you begin to understand that, that will actually change your life. You can never hurt somebody intentionally again once you realize that that person is you. Okay? So the fleshly body is just a condensation. Okay? In which your consciousness is housed. And these come and go. They come and go. All right? So let's continue. I have quoted this beautiful passage at length because it typifies so many of the experiences described in Robertson's book, and because it exemplifies so perfectly the book's main thesis that in childhood we are open to spiritual experience as at any other time of our life, but that such early experiences have a purity unsullied by adult rationalizations and untouched by the constraints of conventional religion. Okay, now that makes good sense. As Matthew informs us, capital God has kept the things of heaven from the wise and prudent and revealed them to mere children. Matthew 11:25. This view of childhood has an exalted state is not a nostalgic denial of childhood's problems, but an affirmation of the sensitivity to the wholeness of life, which our growing involvement with the world tends to obscure. The child tends to grow out of his direct awareness of the one, and he has here capital ground, okay, capital G, ground of things, with the one ground of thing. For the habit of analytical thought is fatal to the intuitions of integral thinking. I'm not sure if I agree with that. The child tends to grow out of his direct awareness of the one ground of things. I don't think the child grows out of that. I can speak from experience. Children are indoctrinated out of that. Okay? Children are indoctrinated. I remember, if I don't have anything else, I have an excellent memory. I can remember back to when I was a child, even in kindergarten. I have an excellent memory, y'all. What I can recall from my school days is that if you did not agree with what you were being taught, you had a problem with the teacher. Now, I grew up in an Orthodox Jewish community, okay? And the place I grew up in, they used to refer to it as Gestapo Heights. Gestapo as in the German Gestapo, that's how aggressive the policy enforcers were. And of course, there were plenty of Jewish synagogues, and they ran the show there. And it's very unfortunate. Many of my classmates did not even realize what was going on, even when we got in our 20s and 30s. Or they realize it, but they deny it. But I do remember that. I lost interest in school around, actually 7th grade. I lost interest in school because you were not allowed to question or disagree without being laughed at or mocked. But anyway, that's another story. When you start studying the sciences, biology, chemistry, if you don't accept those doctrines, and I call them doctrines because science has been religion for a long time, okay? Let me say it again. Science has been religion for a very long time. But anyway, that's a long other story. So I disagree with this totally. Children do not grow out of that. They get indoctrinated and pressured into thinking ways that they didn't think before they started the indoctrination process. Okay? But the natural is still there. It's still there, and what I'm trying to do is wake that up in you. And if I'm successful at all, it'll be because you decided to be yourself and forget about all of this doctrine. And especially scientific arguments. Now, I'm not saying all science is religion, but I'm saying most of it is. If you don't agree with the doctrines that support the power structure, and we all know who they are, if you don't agree with that, and by the way, they put those theories that they call science across all disciplines. Across all disciplines, okay? And if you don't buy into it, you're looked at it as being a quack, an idiot, stupid, right? Especially the whole evolution thing. Or especially in medicine, if you disagree with what may be the cause of a disease, or how to manage or cure it, you're a quack. They'll destroy your career. You got to go along to get along, right? So that's a religion. Even though you know clearly that what's written in that textbook or what's written in the documentation, right, coming down from above, you know it doesn't work, and you know from experience the danger that it represents and that it, you know, the harm that it causes. Can't say anything. Why? Because you're at church. That's right, you can't do anything. Otherwise, you're out and your career is over. Okay, so let's continue. So don't think just because it's science that it's science. More likely than not, it's religion. Okay? Dressed up like science. All right? So the child tends to grow out of his direct awareness of one ground of things. Okay? In other words, that's the all. Right? That's the all, the consciousness. All right? For the habit of analytical thought is fatal. No, it is not fatal. That's BS. See, they want you, this author, or in religion, they want you to give up analytical thought. The habit of analytical thought is fatal to the intuitions of integral thinking. That is absolutely foolish. The habit of not thinking critically, of not being analytical, is fatal to intuition. And trust me, it's fatal to your health, physical and mental. So this quote is taken from Huxley, page 22. All right? So in other words, you need to give up critical thinking in order to be what? A good Christian. This is what he just said. You need to give up critical thinking. That means you just accept anything. All right? Now, once you do that, that means that you are responsible more than they are. So you are going to carry more of the karmic debt than they are. And you wonder how they stay in power, because they're getting you to consent and to do it willingly. Y'all see that? That's how they do it. Let's continue. As JC takes the child in his arms, this is at Mark chapter 9, verse 36, echoing the oldest images of the constellation Virgo, y'all got that? He is in yet another paradox, showing us that the world is best understood by those who have lived in it least. That is virginal, untainted state is a prerequisite for understanding the things of capital G-O-D. If that's not absolute foolishness, I don't know what is. Did y'all hear what he just said? That sounds good, right? Very flowery. Listen to this again. As JC takes the child in his arms, echoing the oldest images of this constellation. That's the woman and the child, right? He is in yet another paradox, showing us that the world is best understood by those who have lived in it least. In other words, children understand the world best. That this virginal, untainted state, children are untainted, right? They don't know right from wrong. They don't know what's going to happen next and what it means, right? They have no experience, no clue. Is a prerequisite for understanding the things of capital G-O-D. Now, when you got into Christianity, you didn't know a thing. Most likely you were born into it. You were completely innocent. But look at what you got. You got a bag full of nothing and a bag full of lies. and a bag full of manipulation, and you've been denationalized, put in a civilly dead state, and under the authority of the Rephaim, the Dogon, and your life has pretty much been hell. So that in itself proves that what this author is saying is absolute nonsense. No, you need to have experience in life. You need to be able to think critically. You need to have the wisdom to not step into something like a religion or anything else until you know everything about it. And that, I do mean everything. Okay? So these authors, these opinions are telling what the church, the state of mind the church would like you to have, which is childlike, innocent, so that they can manipulate you and do whatever they want with you without you resisting. Okay? And they're telling you that this is godlike. Okay? They're rewarding you for putting yourself in a position where they can easily extract every piece of wealth and every piece of value out of you and discard you at the end. And y'all know that's what happens. So this is utter nonsense. Utter nonsense. Okay, let's continue. To become as little children is to cultivate what the Buddhists call, quote, beginner's mind, end quote. A willingness to look at the world with fresh eyes. Now that's something altogether different than what the author said in the previous sentence or two. Looking at the world with fresh eyes is a very different thing than walking into something blindly, having no knowledge, no critical thinking skills, nothing, and just accepting a doctrine. That's not the same as looking at something with fresh eyes. Take note of that. Or with a quote-unquote beginner's mind, a willingness to look at something or to look at the world with fresh eyes. This is well illustrated by the following Zen parable. So, for example, let's say you've lived your life and you've had repeated a few problems. Same problem, a different actor. If you're a woman, same problem. With a man, different man, but the same problem. Okay, so you out of honesty and sincerity with yourself, you say, okay, let me look at this differently. That's looking at it with a beginner's mind, okay, with a fresh pair of eyes, or going to see someone who has more experience in that specific area, that specific problem, talking with them, they've had success with it. So there's your fresh eyes right there. Okay, that makes sense to me. But this idea that, give up your mind and accept the doctrine, absolutely not. We have been through that as a people already, y'all. We have accepted all of these religions, all of them, at birth in most cases. And look what it's gotten us. It's gotten us what? In the status of a stateless person. Shot down, killed in the street, hunted like animals, disrespected, branded with a disgraceful brand such as black, Negro, etc. It's gotten us nowhere. So leave that. Now is the time to turn this on, to turn on your mind. Develop your critical thinking skills. Start building things. That's right, building, making things. Start producing. Not only to make money, produce, create for the sake of producing and creating. Don't be focused on capitalism only. Focus on developing your mind. Of course, if you have some things that you can sell, take those ideas from your mind to the market. But the point is, develop your mind and create. Selling something is not the only value that there is. There's a lot of other types of value. Okay, it does not have to be how much fiat you can make. Okay? Give me 1 second. So don't make that mistake. Create to create. Develop this. Okay? Get your mind out of the gutter. Stop watching debates about doctrine. It's a waste of time. Okay, let's continue with the Zen parable. A very clever university professor went to visit Nan-in, a Buddhist holy man. The professor wanted some advice on how he should live a spiritual life. I have been studying for many years, he told the holy man. I have read hundreds of books. I have sat at the feet of many gurus. And I have attended many different places of worship, but I have never found what I'm looking for. So now I have come to see you. Okay, let's continue. Nan-in looked kindly at the professor. Would you like a cup of tea? He asked with a smile. Would you like a cup of tea? Yes, please, replied the professor. Nan-in prepared the tea and began to pour. The professor's cup was filled to overflowing, but Nan-in continued to pour the tea until it spilled out of the saucer and then on the table. What are you doing? Asked the astonished professor. The cup is full. No more will go in it. Just like you, said Nan-in. Your head is so full of theories, scriptures, ceremonies, and philosophies that there is no room for anything else. Before I can start to teach you, you must empty your cup. So what do you all think? Do you all think Nan-in is saying empty your cup in terms of turn off your critical thinking abilities? Or do you think he means empty your cup in terms of stop being so prejudiced or opinionated and be open-minded? What do y'all think? I can assure you he's not telling him turn off his critical thinking abilities. He's telling him stop being so opinionated. He's looking for something, probably confirmation of what he already believes, and he hasn't found that confirmation, right? That's what most people do in life. They tend to attach themselves with the religion or philosophy or people who agree with them. So they're looking for someone who agrees with them, confirmation. They're not looking for what is. Okay, they're not looking for what is natural. Notice I didn't say what is truth. I said what is natural. The natural law. Most people don't want that. They want to be validated. I'm right. Okay? And they think like me. So I'm going to post up over here or with them. But the goal is to harmonize ourselves with nature, to re-harmonize ourselves, to get in tune with nature, not to search for confirmation of our beliefs, because they're simply beliefs, and all of us have been miseducated and indoctrinated. So in other words, your beliefs are probably not working for you. And most likely, they are out of harmony with nature. Okay? Out of harmony with nature. So, for some people, the pride overtakes them. They don't want to hear what I'm saying right now. I don't know you. I don't know you at all. But at this level of the game, we need to let the pride go. Okay? Because that is self-destructive. Search for how to be harmonious, how to be one with nature. Search for that and stick with that. That's natural law. You cannot go wrong when you are harmonized with nature. You cannot go wrong. Impossible to go wrong when you are harmonized with nature. Okay? Let's continue. The virginal, that's Virgo, the Virgo empty state is necessary if we are to bring to birth the capital God who lies dormant within the soul. That's the S-O-U-L. So we know that that's just flowery poetry because we do not have a S-O-U-L. We do have a S-O-L, right? A battery pack or a battery. Similar to the sun, well, it performs the same function as the sun, S-U-N, the orb or disk in the sky that provides heat, that allows the earth to become warm, and with the heat, of course, that supports life, right? So we have that same energy pack in us, all right? This empty state, I would say, is being empty of opinions, having no opinions. If you have no opinions, that means you need to do what? Get rid of the ethical frameworks that you've been working with. And y'all know when you get at the graduate school level, you start dealing with ethical frameworks and theories, frameworks, etc., that you need to accept, learn how to use. Okay? Now when you get to the PhD level, hopefully, you move beyond that to the level where you begin to evaluate the mechanics of those frameworks so that you can make determinations as to their quality. Okay? In other words, what? Forget about that. Just remember this. Be open-minded. That's the point here. Be open-minded. That's the empty state. You are empty in terms of having opinions that block your ability to see what is natural. Okay? Or pride. Or even humiliation that block or blind you from being able to harmonize with nature. Okay, so let's continue. The ancient church called Mary Theotokos. That's right. Mary was called the Theotokos, a Greek term meaning, quote, capital G-O-D, bearer, God bearer, end quote. The Catholic Church, which preserves the vocabulary of these ancient mysteries, but which has largely forgotten their meaning, honors her with that title today, the Theotokos. Okay? She bore JC the Christ figure. All right. But, as Meister Eckhart said in the 20th century, quote, Mary is blessed not because she bore Christ physically, but because she bore him spiritually. And in this, everyone can become like her. What does it mean she bore him spiritually? Okay? I don't know what that means. If you know what that means, put it in the comment section, and then prove. Prove it. Prove what bore him spiritually means. As far as I can see, that requires you to imagine. You come up with your own definition of what that means, and of course, at that point, what are you doing? Narrative transportation. They've got you, they've activated your imagination, and here you are about to be transported into the story. Always stick with literal meanings. Okay, unless something is defined, there's a mosquito here. He's trying to find a way to bite me. Unless the terms are defined, don't go imagining. Because once you start to imagine, well, that's where they want you to be. They want you to transport yourself into the story, and now guess what? It's you who has propagandized you. You did the brainwashing. All right? They just gave you the plate and you ate it. You could have walked away. All right, then let's continue. A sentiment echoed by Angelus Silesius in the 17th century, who wrote, "Though Christ were yearly born in Bethlehem." Y'all hear that? He was yearly born in Bethlehem. Isn't that astrological? The Christ cannot be yearly born. He's talking about astrology. And never had a birth in you yourself. Then you were lost forever. Bailey, 1934, page 270. I hope y'all caught that. Though Christ were yearly born in Bethlehem. Okay? So he's talking about Virgo. Mark's test goes on to describe two dangers of the Virgo stage. The first of these dangers is perfectionism, which can manifest as insularity or the holier-than-thou mentality. Mayo calls this Virgo need to be pure and free from influence of others. This is his work, Mayo's work, published in 1964, page 47. The disciples tell JC that they have forbidden someone, not in their company, from casting out demons in JC's name. JC disapproves of their action and tells them to let the man alone, because whoever is not against us is for us. This is Matthew chapter 9, verse 40. He goes on to indicate that even the smallest gesture of support for the things of capital God will not go unrewarded. This is in Mark 9:41. All expressions of service and humanity. Let me repeat that. All expression of service and humility, regardless of their motivation or origin, will foster the growth of the kingdom. Okay, so here we see again the goal is very clear. The goal is very clear. Bring as many people into the church or your camp or your religious assembly as possible, right? Bring them in. Why? So that the kingdom will come. Okay, so that requires your self-sacrifice, all of that garbage that we went over in previous presentations. Okay, forget about yourself, focus on other people, which is utter foolishness, right? You'll fail in life, you'll be very unhappy. But anyway, this is what's required. Let's continue. If you don't believe me, look back at your own life. Look at your own life. Read any success and achievement book. It'll tell you, you need to have a clearly defined goal, right? Measurable in time and space when you're going to achieve it. And you need to put what? Massive action behind achievement of that goal. But more than that, You need to feel. You need to feel the success and the pleasure of performing or working on each action step, achieving each milestone. That's where your power is, right there, in the feelings and in the imagination, okay, the desire. You go back and look at that if you don't believe me, okay? So you don't focus on your stuff, you focus on the church. Well, what's going to happen to you? That's right, you're living out somebody else's plan. And you're going to fall flat. It's just a matter of time if you haven't already fallen flat already. Or you'll be stagnant and unhappy. But anyway, let's continue. All right. Okay, Matthew preserves this saying of JC, but he places it in different contexts. And in his zeal to preserve the purity and authority of the church. See, everything is focused on the church, not you. He completely reverses the sense. He that is not with me is against me. He has JC say, all right? He that is not with me is against me. I hope y'all can see that. Why can't I be with you and be with me too? Why I need to give up everything? You see it doesn't make sense, y'all. How many of y'all have ever walked into a church or a camp and you saw JC sitting there? Who do you see sitting there? You see the preacher. Or you see the generals, the captains, and the officers. You see men and women, probably some melanated hybrids too. Okay, that's who you see. Okay, until proven otherwise. Until proven otherwise. They are the ones who are running that organization. But in your mind, because you've been transported into the narrative, you believe the capital G-O-D, they are representing capital G-O-D. So you give all your time, all your energy, all your effort, and when you start to think a different way or start to question, they kick you out. Y'all see how that works? Ain't that how it goes? Isn't that how it goes? So you have no proof other than their doctrine that they are who they say they are. How do you know for a fact that they are with JC the Christ figure? How do you know? You don't know. You're only assuming. And you don't even know them. You don't know them well. All you know is the doctrine. Maybe you like their personality. Or maybe you don't know where else to go. Whatever. All right? Anyway, let's continue. Virgo exclusiveness is the need to stay aloof from the encroachments of paganism, started early on in the church's history, but it is a need that is totally absent from Mark, except insofar as he tells us to avoid indulging in it, that is, indulging in paganism. Here is the supreme hypocrisy of these religions. They are nothing but paganism. They incorporated all of the pagan. You know, when I say all, I'm speaking connotatively. Their practices and celebrations are all pagan. They come from everywhere, from mythology, from astrology, astrozourism, Hinduism. They just gobbled up pagan practices and beliefs. But here they're telling you They're telling you after they've institutionalized this thing, those practices, and hid it, they're telling you don't get involved in paganism. But that the church's Christianity is nothing but paganism. But can you see it and can you accept it? That's the issue. Shalom Islam to all the Moors. I'm DrYasapa. I need the win. I need the win. Okay, if you want to support my project to write the book of the law in ancient Ibaryath and modern English so that you can see the etymological meaning of every word and how they are rendered in English so that you can see what our ancestors understood the book of the law to say. That means I'm going to take out all the lies, all the deception, all of the mythology, and I'm going to put the natural law and natural law principles back into it. I'm going to put back into it the mechanisms of oppression and the signs to identify us. And these are going to be in law. You will see law concepts. For example, eschat. Eschat is a big one. Estate is a big one. And bills of attainder. Public policy intended to harass and destroy you. All of that will be put back in there. And it points to only one people, and that is you, Moors. Islam and Shalawama.